Ladies, gentlemen, let the show begin. Alright, do you like video games? And I know you do. What about entertainment? We got that too. Video game Armada, video game Armada. What's the name? Video game Armada. This is Walt, the gamer and boss Bronze.
Any information on Virtue Backlash.
And the First Lady of Media, Blue.
Coming to you with a movie review. Yay!
Yay!
Now, before we begin, I have a note right here. If you're expecting Batman, don't. Because, and I quote, I am not going to review this stupid movie about the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's bad enough I have to do your job and play their video game. This is just adding insult to injury if I show up today, signed Batman. Swear to me. So
just pull that note up and throw it in the trash.
Yeah, let's just get rid of that. And there. Alright. Let's talk about one of the greatest movies I've seen in my life. So it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and everyone won and everyone was happy. The end.
Wow. Chester from that other YouTube channel. That famous YouTube channel.
We're lousy with bums around here. I don't know why. People just showing up, giving their opinions. But the only opinions that matter is ours. No bums, no bats, no millennials. Just us. And yes, I am what you may consider a millennial, but I'm more like an anti-millennial, so there you go. We give you all good, all meat, no filler. That is our movie review. So before we go into the actual meat, Backlash, if you don't mind, the story, please.
Okay, so the Guardians of the Galaxy are doing what their mission statement entailed from the last movie. They were doing a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, and maybe they were going to try to do good, bad. In this case, they did a little bit of both. Then that situation put them in the sights of Ego, played by Kurt Russell. Ego, and I don't think it's too much.
That's a very weird name, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler because it's in the trailers. Ego is the long-rumored father of Peter Quill, a.k.a. Star-Lord. So, Peter, along with a handful of the Guardians, decide to go to Ego's planet and play ball with him, while the other Guardians, because of the little bit of bad that was done, go fix their own ship. What happens is not only a great story of adventure, but so much more that anyone is prepared for, and a whole bunch of Marvel references, a whole bunch of new Marvel characters, and a whole bunch of celebrity cameos.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to keep saying anything other than that because that goes to in-depth spoiler territory, which we shall be talking about in the Aftermath show.
Well, I can't help it. I'm going to say one of the spoilers right now.
No.
One of the people you'll see is Stan Lee.
Oh.
That is, but also is not a spoiler. But in what capacity will Stan make his cameo? Find out when you either watch the movie or listen to our Aftermath show. But yes, Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved it. It was very good, very touching, heartwarming, action-y. Everyone was true to form, more or less. In fact, this movie might as well have just been called The Galaxy for how many characters there was. They were supplementary characters, sure. They probably may not show up in the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But I tell you, they all played their parts 100% magnifique. I loved it. It was great. You know, it gave a little understanding of each Guardian through their, you know, what they are, what they were, their past, and how they're going to reconcile with, you know, what bad stuff happens between all of them, and they're making their way towards a new unified family of sorts. You know, I could on a, you know, a level I can understand that, and I enjoyed it.
Well, there is something with Groot. which this is also kind of a soft spoiler, but not really. If you've been if you've been living under a rock, Groot is not only alive after the events of the first movie. Not only are they aware that he's alive, but for all intents and purposes, Groot has gone from this Hulk clone who's more like a friendly giant lummox to this baby tree. He acts like a little kid, you know? They don't do really delve deep into his psyche and like the others, but he gives moments of levity and heart in moments in the movie. So, you know, we don't really get to know that much about Groot in this movie.
He doesn't really rely on his catchphrase, although he still says it. This time around, he's more expressive, like a puppy. Doing random things, you know, showing emotion. Still Vin Diesel, though, so there you go.
Yeah.
But you were saying.
Well, I mean, that's my point. I just wanted to make sure the audience knew that at least Groot was a little bit different. Not for... and it wasn't bad, but just to be prepared, you won't be seeing the butt kicker Groot that you did see in the last movie.
I don't know. For as small as he is, he's done a fair amount of butt kicking. Sure, it's mainly things on his level, but
yeah,
saying that he wasn't like just, what do you call it? He's not like a minion.
He's not a fluff piece.
He's not a fluff piece. He's not just there for the little kids. Although there were kids in the showing we were seeing.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I actually did think that this was a movie. I enjoyed it, first of all, so I'll start off saying that. But I thought this was a movie that, especially if you saw the first movie and then you followed it up by seeing the second, I think the second movie gave all of the characters a soul. I think the first one was entertaining, and it really was. And there was action sequences, but the characters were somewhat hollow. You know, you were just meeting them for the first time, and you know, they got the job done, and it was fine. And you know, you walked away with some good one-liners. And you know, the first movie, there's no question in my mind. I'm sure many of the other characters, you know, the one that stole the show, pretty much stole the show again this time as well.
Which one?
Batista. Batista was amazing. And
see,
first time he was like amazing, but this time he was hilarious.
The thing was, Batista, even though he's had experience acting since 2006, if you can believe that, he's more been known for being a WWE superstar, cutting pretty much direct promos, and James Gunn relied on that in the first movie, and they used his direct, blunt nature of his promos and probably of the man himself to make this version of Drax the Destroyer so literal. And he's still like that. And based on rumors from the Wrestling Dirt Sheets, it seems like Dave Bautista might be a little apprehensive of being an actor overall, where he's allegedly may quit. He might still be uncomfortable with it, but
Can you never tell us by this movie?
I know James Gunn may have strangled whatever emotion he could get out of Dave Bautista out of him. And to both their credits, it is different. I still think there's still more I would like to see from Batista. But at the same time, I won't be lying if I didn't say there are moments in that movie where he didn't touch something inside of me, whether be it funny or sad.
And he was quite believable. I mean, you didn't even walk away saying that's Batista. You walked away saying that's Drax the Destroyer.
See, I'll be honest with you. He did a good job, but his presence in the movie was not as what's the word? It escapes me. He wasn't in the movie as much as he was in the last movie. And again, because of the fact there were so many, like, different characters this time around, I can understand that.
Yes.
I mean, Drax, he was definitely funny, and I enjoyed his character yet again. I could have said, though, I could have just used a little bit more. I could have used a little bit more of the Guardians. But again, I'll save that for the proper goods and bads here. I guess we're still in the goods, perhaps.
Well,
or,
you know, if we are still in the goods, I think that in a way, for me, I found the slant that the director put forward A+, because I thought that you know, as a series of movies, you know, when they begin, the first one is never guaranteed that there's going to be a second or a third or a fourth or a 10th.
Except for Marvel movies, you could that there's no such thing as a sure thing,
right? But
in
you
life.
can kind of be guaranteed that's their goal,
Mm-hmm.
that's their end goal. But you know, again, with the first movie, you kind of got to make money, you know. So the second movie, though, once they were pretty sure they were going to be on target with the second movie, you felt that it was a whole new movie. You just didn't feel like it was truly a continuation. You did feel that you knew these characters with the very first moment. But from there on, I think it took on another life force. Like you say, it had some acting royalty in this movie. And I think it lent itself to being more of a storyline for the central character, as opposed to the whole Guardians as the first movie was. So I think it kind of fleshed out a soul for each of the characters by giving you a glimpse as to what made them tick. But the story itself, the movie itself, I think it focused primarily on, you know, the central character more than anything.
Mm-hmm. I gotta admit, it took its time. Yeah, it wasn't like Ang Lee's Hulk or some of the Lord of the Rings movies, some of the Star Wars movies, where you get a lot of talking, a lot of exposition, you get a lot of emotional stuff. Then, here's some action, quick action.
Oh, I like the action.
And then more exposition, and you get to the last third of the climax of the movie, and then the rest of it is just all action. Guardians pretty much let you have like action, intro, exposition, action, emotion, action. They switched on and off, and
nice balance.
It was nice balance, and that was good of them to split off.
A lot of good balance in humor too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Some humorous moments you just don't see coming until they literally, smack you over the face with it.
Yes.
Out of the far lower right hand side.
And it didn't feel forced. It
Yeah.
didn't feel contrived. It seemed to be appropriate humor at a really good time in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, how about the perfect people? There were some perfect people.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool.
The new race.
Yes.
I don't think these characters. I don't know if these were canon foreigner aliens or
what your research couldn't tell you.
I didn't get that far. My phone was quickly dying. But I don't know if these canon foreigner aliens or obscure aliens. I will say this: the Queen, she is an existing character.
I think she was a priestess. I don't think she was a queen.
Well, the priestess.
Yeah.
What's interesting about her, ironically, that was one of her names in Marvel Comics. Her.
They did refer to her a couple times in the movie.
I forget her name now. She's not a famous actress. I don't even know her real name, so I can do that. But people will know her. I'll say this: the way they came about combat, because they're a society that really doesn't like to get their hands dirty.
Too perfect to be touched.
Too perfect to be touched. I thought it was very clever, very unique.
Me too.
But she plays a pivotal role in the Guardians' future, but I can't go on to detail with that. But even in the comics, if anyone knows who she was, they pretty much blended her character with another character. But you wouldn't know it. You just think these guys are just disnoids that are just in there to insert action. No. There's more to them. There's more to her. And it was kind of unique. They were kind of different from the Nova Corps in the same way they were similar to the Nova Corps and what their role was, but they're different. They're also different from the Reavers. You know, they're saving that same purpose like the Reavers did, but in a different way. Honestly, they weren't. I mean, they were portrayed as pretty much being the biggest tools in the universe, but they really weren't evil, and you really got to understand they're pricks, but they're within their right to.
It's their rules.
They're playing their rules, and basically they were wrong, you know. So they really weren't the aggressors in this. But that's one of the things in the story. That's one of the things that has deeper consequences when one of the Guardians screws them over. I gotta say the villain in this story. This is probably one of
the multiple villains in this.
There's multiple.
But are you talking about the main one?
The main one, yeah.
Oh, the main one.
I mean,
great main one.
I mean, the other side villains, the gold people are kind of sort of the villains, but they're like villains with an excuse. But there's a villain within one of the subgroups in this movie. I think he was equal parts humorous, even though sometimes unintentional, but also petty and jealous and angry. It makes me think, yeah, that's Marvel Villain 101. I appreciate that. But the main villain, he's probably, and I don't say this lightly, everyone and their grandma's pet mouse's future dinner, knows that Loki is the greatest villain in the MCU. I would even personally say that. I also say Obadiah Stane, Jeff Bridges from the first Iron Man movie, should be up there, even though most people say that's a mixed bag. Those characters had emotion. That being said, this main villain was probably one of the best. He might even overthrow Loki for the top spot. I even think his presence is more menacing than the Red Skull. And the Red Skull wasn't no prize himself as an overall villain, but that's the Red Skull. He's that villain. That, like the Lex Luthor, the Joker, he's that villain. He's the threat. And this villain really just brought his A game by the sheer fact that he has all this power, but he's so delusional. You know, he knows nothing but evil. He doesn't see it that way, but what real villain does? You know?
I'll table that for now until we get to the bats.
We don't really want to also spill the beans on.
Are we in the goods then, or what?
We're
We're
definitely
still in the
goods.
But even when we get to the bads, we don't want to say too much about that
right.
premise until our aftermath.
All right. Well, let me just go through my goods then.
Yeah, good.
Graphics, obligatory, blah blah blah. Good. The action for what it was, specifically Star-Lord, specifically Rocket, and specifically any scene with Yondu or Nebula. Well, Yondu got a bigger role this time.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That was great.
And he was definitely a co-star in this.
More
or less.
Michael Rooker was one of those. You think, I don't know much about Michael Rooker, but I always thought he was a respected actor. But he's just one of those guys that's like saying, "Hey, I'm an actor. I'm a known thespian that you'll probably see me at Sundance or some indie festival, and I'm this blue-skinned alien." And they made him work for it. They also made another actor who's in the credits, but it still will be construed as a spoiler, work for it, to the point where someone in TV Tropes said, this is one of the rare times this spoiler actor, who's one of Yondu's friends, by the way, broke out his acting chops. And you know what? I believe it. I really do. But, also, any scene with Nebula and Gamora together, that was great action.
They're like the new Wolverine and Sabretooth.
Yeah, done right, but the thing is, Nebula is not as psychotic as Sabretooth, you see.
You don't think so? We've seen some pretty crazy crazy scenes where her hate for Gamora is pretty up there.
In the 616 universe, I know it's not the same as the X-Men movie franchise. Sabretooth has eaten people. He's killed the Morlocks in the comics. Sabretooth works for the bad guys of the movie. Well, so does Nebula, so okay. But more to my point, like, this movie, you're not prepared for this movie. This movie will touch you. Not like that. I mean, this movie...
No. We know what you meant. Don't keep going.
This movie will bring up the feels. It is emotionally draining for the stuff that isn't happening with action or exposition. They will really try to bring it out of you. And one character that was made that I was wondering about her because I knew about this character, and Steve Engelhart's character for the Avengers named Mantis. She was a member of the reboot Guardians, the Guardians that are represented here. I didn't know what role she was going to play, and
we still don't know for the purposes of those who haven't seen the movie yet.
No. But I mean, it's a smaller role, but she's a newbie. But her small role had a big impact. Quite a lot. It spoke to the emotion. There's more to her character, but a lot of it has to deal with the emotional weight of the Guardians, and her part to play in that is the part of the reason why those emotional scenes were so strong. It's not the end all, the be all, but she's part of the reason why especially in the middle of the movie, that was so emotional. But then, the closer and closer it gets to the end, it tries to drain you like a dam flooding a town or something. It really won't stop. It just keeps going and going and going, and then it gets to the end, and the very end till the roll of credits, and it finally lightens up with those rumored 5 stingers that it has for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is hard. It's both rewarding but really hard to sit through, and it's hard to sit through in a good way. And honestly, I don't say this lightly. This is probably one of the best MC movies they've ever done.
It's definitely the best one they have for the year. But is there any more MCU movies coming out this year?
Spider-Man and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, we'll say that this is definitely the front runner until we see those movies. I'll agree.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I agree with a lot of everything that Backlash stated. I totally loved the movie. It was just something I totally enjoyed. I mean, it wasn't something that I didn't anticipate enjoyment. I really did. So I set a high bar to begin with, and it really didn't disappoint me. I thought it was a real blessing in a way to see so many quality actors on the screen. And I just love it ever since they started realizing by bringing good acting to all that great action and CG that it just was just going to be a win-win-win for everybody. I think that it's just been a real treat for people who go to the big screen and see these things. And we saw it in 3D, and I thoroughly recommend it. I wasn't disappointed about that choice at all. And I think that they really went the extra mile to deliver some quality CG, some of which, again, I look for things I don't see every movie, and I saw some nuances of things that I don't usually see, and I thought they did a great job with that. And I look at the things that I'm starting to notice, you know, not just for the little ones out there that could be watching, but the adults too, because there's a lot of baby boomers that are out there now that don't really go to movies that often. Well, if they go to this movie, they'll enjoy it because the music comes right from the era of baby boomers. I mean, you could sing along with all those great songs that they put in the soundtrack, which I thought was an enhancement. And then I looked at, you know, how you see the newest stuff with all the millennials and the tweens, and, you know, they come up with the Snapchat and all the little Facebook little characters with the big eyes and the little fox ears and nose. That's how that one character sort of had that look. And I think I won't identify her or her, him, but I think when you see the movie, you'll notice right away, why is this something that feels so much like what I'm into, so cutesy, but it's kind of like that thing. So I thought that was nice. They put a new spin on new technology along with the other CGI effects. And I think too, the use of having more than one villain and having some nice backstory for it all also helped to really uplift everything about the whole richness of the plot, because you have a one-dimensional Guardian story in the first movie where it kind of laid it out to you. This is what they do, and this is what this is their mission.
Well,
but this storyline came with so many subplots, you really weren't sure where the twists and turns were going to be. And I thought that was pretty cool. Kept your interest.
Yeah. And one more thing, and you can just start with the next thing, Bronze.
Just missed blue. No kidding. Go ahead.
Those cameos, man, oh man, those cameos, and not just the ones we can't say because of spoiler. Not just Stan Lee, but they brought back characters from the last Guardians movie that made cameos, and I think there's one Guardian and one notable Marvel character from the 80s that people talked about. They came back again, and it's just funny. And there's even a character for a future movie that apparently snuck in. We'll get to that on the Aftermath.
Oh, heck
Yeah, absolutely. And my last point was back to the whole giving it a soul. I think when you see this movie, you literally will feel like you care about each of the characters. You really walk away even caring about the bad character. Even the bad guys, you care about them in some fashion. So I like that piece. They weren't just images up on the screen. You feel like you knew them. You feel like you could sympathize or empathize with them, and you rooted for them in some way.
Well, I can't really add to any of that with you guys. Your analysis and your thoughts and feelings on it, they're 100%. So I can't add to any of the good. So we're going to move on to the bads. I do have
Bads.
Well, I mean, again, these are not technically bad. It's more like my particular nitpicks. And since they can be spoiler heavy, I'm going to be as generalized as I can. For the main bad guy, I'm just saying that his end goal purpose was not very clear to me. I'm just saying is that he did all of that stuff at the end just so that, he could do what he does. But that wouldn't solve his problem, I don't think, because he did all that stuff because, in his mind, it was the only way he could fulfill his needs. But if he did all that, he wouldn't achieve his goal. It's hard to explain. I'll have to explain in the aftermath.
I think you will have to, but at the same time, I agree with you because the observation, I made that same observation.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, by the time he decided to do what he did, he felt like he had no other options left. And believe me, he had years and years, among other things, of trying to do it other ways.
I mean, he already gained an ally, which should have already told him that what he set out to do is not going to work. If he already has an ally who's there, maybe not totally, of the ally's will, or maybe scared or something, but still there and helping out the main bad guy, then maybe the main bad guy should have realized that, maybe I could alter my particularly galaxy-changing plan just a little bit, because he doesn't quite have all the variables.
Well, I will reserve my feedback on that.
And although the other main bad guys, the sub bad guys, there's like three. Mm-hmm. These the sub. I love their modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
Operandi of their way of attacking the Guardians of the Galaxy, especially for my particular interests in life. But I also gotta complain about their motivation. They went through all this trouble because of, and I don't think it's a spoiler, but I'll just say petty theft. How much money are they losing? You'll see the movie just for those three things. I mean, if it's a matter of honor and pride, I don't think they're Klingons.
Yeah.
I don't think that sort of thing cares about that.
It's just like you got these high society rich people, and then it's like someone stealing, and it's like you said, this is petty. What this Guardian did to them was just petty. So it isn't like stealing a loaf of bread off like a whole banquet for a quinceañera for rich upper class people. It's like stealing a piece of bread from a quinceañera of the rich upper class and have the security trying to shoot at them.
Well, I also say,
But you did wrong, but, I understand.
It wasn't the sharpest wheel on the deck. Wasn't that bright?
Oh.
So,
I mean, and I don't run my own society of perfect people, but I would have probably said, send them a bill. I know where they live.
Mm-hmm.
You saw what they did. Okay, they had a prisoner already. You see how they treated that prisoner, right?
And that's precisely my point. That prisoner was not a walk in the park, and they were able to capture that prisoner. How are they having trouble with the Guardians of the Galaxy? I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Alright.
And I think that may be my only nitpick, other than the fact that I probably would have liked to have more screen time with the actual Guardians. Oh, yeah. One more. And I don't think it's a spoiler. I'm just saying that of all of the secret endings that they were, none of them tied back into the overall Marvel universe.
No, especially after what happens near the end.
I'm just saying, I mean, like, they were funny. They were cool.
Yeah.
But I like my Marvel Universe to give me the big picture.
Right.
A little window of what's to come.
Well, they kind of did. The first one and the third one kind of do. The first one
kind of did.
The first one was like full of lulls, Rolfocopter, but it also is telling, will he or won't he?
You know he is. Come on.
And then
Come on.
And that third one, it doesn't see it's the only serial stinger of the bunch, but it's really. If this is going where everyone thinks it's going, that's going to affect the Infinity War.
All I'm saying is that I'm about as Marvel as a guy who's watched TV shows is. Mainly that I got all my Marvel comic knowledge from watching the awesome, glorious TV shows in the 90s. When she said that at the third end stinger, all I could think about is, that guy from the Bible? Huh? I don't understand.
Well,
until you told me about it, I said, oh. And then I said, wait a minute, was that how that happened? Did he come from pod people? I don't know. I just think there was an easier way to, transition to that.
How many younger millennials and older non-comic book people didn't see Thanos from the Marvel Superheroes Capcom video game and had to find out this grinning purple man at the end of Avengers? That was equally as confusing.
At least he stands out. At least we saw the face. All we saw at that stinger was an object that looked like a weird futuristic honeycomb.
Fair enough. All right.
And that's it. I swear. I got nothing left.
Well, Blue?
Well, yeah, but I didn't have anything major. Mine, again, was a nitpick, but I kind of don't want to spoil anything, but, I'm teetering on this, so my comment might be removed during post, and if that's the case, then you'll just have to refer to it in the aftermath. But, as in all Marvel movies, for the most part, you get a continuation of the good guys, and technically, for the most part, most of the bad guys have been, thrust out into some netherworld somewhere, or some other dimension, or eradicated in some finite way, but maybe retrievable should they be needed at some point. And I would like to say my nitpick is, in this movie, I would have liked to reserve the right for some of the bad guys.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I was hoping, come on, show me something, show me that little piece of flotsam and jetsam that pulses with light,
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I wanted that too. I wanted that too.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
It could still be. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Because you know what they said about what they said in the movie, little G. That could mean a lot.
It could still happen. You're right.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say, and I'm going to be into it, Galactus had trouble putting this guy down, so it ain't the end.
Well, speaking about the big bad. The big bad, I have nitpicks too.
Mm-hmm.
They actually did right by the 616 universe and showed them how it was intended to look. But it's not the same thing as what happened with Galactus and Rise of the Silver Surfer, but it's not a cloud. These cloudy villains, they actually did it right, but it was like what they did with the villain, and people will automatically know who it is if they are Marvel fans, if they've been following the movie this long. It's blink and you miss it. It's like they show it once or twice, 3 times if you count the credits.
Sure.
And that's it. Of course, you gotta give the rest of the special effects screen time, I guess. So you gotta focus on, because no one's here who's listening to this are young children, or maybe they are, but I'll give you a life lesson. If the villain is played by an actor instead of just purely special effects, that actor's going to want some semblance of screen time.
Okay.
So that happens every single time.
Not Vin Diesel.
Well, him and Bradley Cooper, right? But they're supposed to be a tree and a raccoon. This is supposed to be something much greater scale, and I placated it. I thought, okay, when are you going to show me this? Because I knew what was going to go on. But they said, okay, fine. And they did some cool stuff when it was starting to get hot and heavy, like how it's supposed to be, but still, they didn't have him. It's like patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. You either got to see him patting his head or rubbing his belly. And you didn't get to see both at once. It's like, But, I mean, that was a nitpick. I also got to see, I wish I could have seen Gamera do more sword fighting. I wish I could have seen Drax in a little bit more action. I understood Baby Groot. He's a freaking baby. Quill and Rocket. Rocket was amazing. That's another good. Rocket was amazing. Quill. Yondu. All good actions. The rest of the Guardians that could do that stuff, they really didn't get a chance to. Gamera and Drax. And Nebula had her fair share of action too. You know, I forget what her name is. Karen something. Nebula. It's another nitpick, but it's par for the course of the movie. I'm used to seeing Nebula in this universe be so stoic and so evil, and she's starting to soften, and that's fine. But she's starting to act a little more goofy, just like the rest of them. It's you slowly seeping through, and
she's getting indoctrinated.
Yeah, she's starting to be just as goofy as the rest of them. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just kind of jarring that she's doing it so subtly but quickly at the same time. It's like, okay, I don't think I'm ready for this yet. It's like going for Batman the Animated Series and then having Batman Kevin Conroy voice into Teen Titans and it's like getting squashed by an anime hammer or something like. Well, that's kind of like Captain Sunshine and the Venture Brothers, but I digress. There's really nothing else I can think of that's really a bad, because even the most minor characters had. I mean, the Gold People were kind of flat in their portrayal, but there was a good payoff for that as well. But everyone else, even the most minor characters outside of those Gold People, had different variations of layers, and you really couldn't. Aside from the big bad, and even then he had layers too, you really couldn't hate anyone for the choices they've made, because you don't know what any of these characters have been through. And the stuff you do, like Groot, what he's been through, it's tragic, you know?
Well said. So, let's wrap this up, because I really want to get to the aftermath. That's where we get everything onto the table right there. I'm giving it a platinum pass of perfection.
I too.
You got 3 platinum passes of perfection. That movie is really good.
Go see it. You'll love it.
It's really good. Go see it. Bring your family. Bring your kids. Bring your old peoples. Bring your pets.
Bring your kids. Bring your wife. Home boy. Home boy.
No. That's the wrong decade. Everything should be 80s. 80s.
Some of that was 70s, really.
All right, 70s then.
Yeah.
Well, did I do that? I'm sorry.
No, it's a
that was 90s. 80s.
You got it, dude.
Was that 80s?
At first, I don't think she said you got it, dude. Then,
yeah, she was still a baby.
Darn it!
Say, I cannot do that, Dave.
I cannot do that, Dave.
So yes, you get triple platinum pass for perfection. It's nearly perfect. So go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 today. And stay tuned for the aftermath, which will be for you guys in a couple of days.
And like us, and subscribe.
And all that good stuff. But until then, it's One Drummer Gamer, Boss Bros.
And the Informational Emperor, True Backlash.
And the First Lady of Media Blue.
Telling you to break out your Zunes. They're coming back! Yeah!
We're gonna feel like I'm gonna believe it. That you in love with me.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel
do 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 do.